Soup Squad! It's yours truly, the one and only Big Soup here, back on my bullshit again. I think it's about time I dropped my first ground RB only oriented video. Yeah, I'm more of an air RB main for sure, but I've been playing a lot of ground in anticipation of this video. Trust me, I wouldn't be giving you advice if I didn't think I was qualified to do so. Most of the stuff I mention is going to be pretty general anyways. Another one of those things that I need you guys to understand is that I don't even have top tier ground yet. For all I know, the gameplay could be completely different, and if it's anything like air, it is different. But as far as I'm aware, the stuff I'm going to tell you should be applicable to pretty much any tier since it'll be general. Just take it with a grain of salt if you're trying to apply it to top tier. What was it that old Ronnie the Don Reagan said? Trust but verify? Anyways, with that intro out of the way, let's get started. From what I can tell, positioning is one of the most important mechanics of your gameplay. You should be doing everything in your power to have perfect positioning at every point in every match. Don't just hold W all the way until you get sent back to hangar. Early game positioning especially can make or break the match for you. I think that the number one goal of having good positioning is to not make yourself a target. Some things that help me do this are being aware of the map layout, flanking, and having good target selection. Map layout awareness, aside from being able to read the map and recognize sightlines from it, will come with practice. I'll talk more about learning through experience in another section. Most of the time, however, a cheat code to map awareness is to drive off to the side instead of right at the enemies, aka flanking. Unless I'm in something with very good armor, I try to flank as much as possible. It's not only easier to stay alive if you're not in the enemy sightline, it's much easier to get kills penetrating through the side armor rather than the front. Flanking is much easier in something fast, but this doesn't mean that you shouldn't, or that it's impossible to, flank in something slower. It can be very fruitful if you manage to get to a good enough spot. Last, target selection. It is extremely important to choose your target so that you do not compromise yourself. This could mean anything from avoiding something you know you can't really penetrate to not immediately peeking out to take a shot when you see somebody to get more situational awareness first. Overall, if you focus on positioning yourself so that you can better stay alive, for example if you're outside the enemy sightline or concealed entirely, you will have a better match. Ground RB, from what I've noticed, takes significantly more patience than air RB does in order to succeed. Making sure you stay alive will give you many more opportunities in the match to also be offensive and therefore rack up those kills. I cannot stress enough the importance of playing to your vehicle's strengths and weaknesses. Speed, armor, reload speed, gun penetration, shell explosive mass, you name it, all of these things will impact how you should be playing. I'm not going to go over how to play to each strength or weakness because I think it's fairly obvious. If you're fast, use it to get to a good spot early. If you have no armor and a big gun, go snipe, etc. I will say, something that needs to be extra stressed is knowing armor. Some tanks have great armor, but only if it's angled. Some tanks have good frontal armor, but terrible side armor and should not be angled at all. Just know your vehicle. Not only should you know the armor of your vehicle, but also of the vehicles you'll be facing. It's too funny seeing a KV-1 driver rage in the chat after getting penned through the bushes on his turret by me and my M24 Chaffee. Knowing weak spots will make you a significantly more effective ground RB player. Aside from just the armor, it definitely helps to be aware of the general strengths and weaknesses of other vehicles you'll be facing. I'd focus on learning weak spots first, as they're more difficult to learn just through experience. This can very easily be done in hangar by going to each tank you'll be facing, going to customize, and entering the armor penetration simulator. Select the shell you'll be firing, and play around to see where you should be firing it at. Otherwise, experience alone will help you know what to do in specific situations against certain enemies. More about this in another section. For now, have as good of an understanding of weak spots as possible, and a general understanding of the strengths and weaknesses of your enemies. Since just knowing them isn't going to help, make sure you actually play to them. This part is definitely my biggest issue. Ground RB, in my soupy little opinion, is more of a team-oriented game mode than even Air is. In the long run, you'll find way more success if you're more of a team player. I'm not saying sacrifice yourself or even your position for your teammates. I am saying try to pay attention to what types of teammates you have and where they're positioned and play accordingly. Maybe even help them out with repairing every once in a while. Definitely prioritize your targets to eliminate. First, destroy dangers to yourself, and next, destroy dangers to your teammates. Idle targets do not receive priority. Shoot the guy that's looking at your teammates before you rush to the enemy spawn to shoot the guy that just joined the match. The reason team play is so important is because of the different types of vehicles that exist in the game. One light tank alone, in most cases, isn't going to carry a match, but a light tank that's scouting for a heavy tank up front and a couple mediums or maybe some tank destroyers close behind, now that's a lethal combo. Something else I'm just going to throw in here, because I think it's kind of obvious but still bears mentioning, objectives are important, but they're not so important that you should compromise your positioning, situational awareness, or even vehicle for them. Of course, this is unless the ticket bleed is making it necessary. Most of the time, however, I won't even think about capturing an objective until a lot of the first wave of enemies has been dealt with. If I'm in something fast and want to quickly get into CAS, air main, it's a different story. Otherwise, sit back a bit and be patient. Try to get into a spot where you can pick off enemies going for flanks, these are the most dangerous enemies, or for objectives. These enemies will be preoccupied and therefore easy kills most of the time. All in all, pay attention to what types of vehicles your teammates are in and where they're positioned at, and play off of them. German tankers, I'm sorry to say this, but you're probably going to have to get used to carrying, so try to save whatever teammates you can, but buckle down for a long game. For whatever reason, even though the tanks are fantastic, I've noticed German teams tend to have some skill issues, at least in the tiers I've unlocked. Ah, yes, situational awareness. This is the other most necessary mechanic to master besides positioning. In Ground RB, I can't emphasize enough the importance of having good, if not perfect, situational awareness. If you're bad at this, all you have to do is hold your C key and look around. Don't get tunnel visioned on one enemy. I like to force myself to look around between every action I perform, like shooting at someone, scouting someone, popping smoke, turning a corner, whatever it might be. It just helps me get into the habit of having better situational awareness. For obvious reasons, it helps tremendously seeing an enemy before they see you. I'm not going to go too in depth on this one, just please use your C key and look around as much as possible. Also be aware of the map, where the enemies are, and like I said in the last section, where your teammates are. Do not just go rushing into sightlines that the enemy is probably watching. The obvious stuff. Yeah, I'll stop this section here. Again, point being, just please look around and use your brain. Hopping into games and repeatedly trying out all the stuff I've told you is the only way you're going to get used to it and get good at it. Once you've built up that sort of muscle memory, this game mode will be much easier for you. In fact, I'm starting to build up that muscle memory for myself now. Maybe that's why I feel like making this video. One of the biggest parts of this is gaining map knowledge. Playing maps many times is going to teach you where the best spots are, how to get there without being seen, how far you can go until you need to look out for enemies, etc. Having a better understanding of the map and good positions on it is an obvious advantage that doesn't need explanation. Other than that, like I was saying before, you'll get used to how to play against certain vehicles after a while. You'll learn to exploit enemy weaknesses and avoid their strengths. I'll reiterate it here because you'll also learn that it's true with experience. Please focus on staying alive. Rushing straight down the middle of the map and trying to get a bunch of kills just isn't gonna work out well for you. Play it slow, be patient, and the kills will come. You'll figure it out. Alright, that was actually a pretty fun video to make. I genuinely hope that you guys were able to take something from it. As an air lover, Ground RB can sometimes be very frustrating, and I'm sure a lot of you feel the same way, even if you're not an air lover. My advice is to keep in mind everything I've told you in this video and to learn through much experience. Anyways, it's that sad time for the video to be over again. Leave a like, a comment, and subscribe. Also check out the description for some important stuff like the link to my Discord server and my Twitch channel. With the shamelessness out of the way, you all know the deal. This is Nimbo Soup, Nimbo signing out.